Did you know that Ghislane Maxwell was a moderator on Reddit for 14 years? Yes, that Ghislane Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend, sex trafficker, rapist, that one. I didn't know until I started reading around the other day. You're laying there trying to fall asleep, so you're reading about an international sex trafficking cabal. Someone mentioned, she was a moderator on Reddit. I looked into it. I thought there's no way that can be true. That's got to be a conspiracy theory. That's a rumor. No way. I looked into it. It's true. Not only was she a moderator, and if you're not a Redditor, if you're not one of us, moderators, they moderate the subreddit. So if people make comments you don't like, you just moderate them off there. You just ban them. You delete the comment, ban the user from your subreddit, right? So you got a lot of power as a moderator. And in theory, they're there to enforce the rules and keep everybody safe, and no one's making horrible hate speech or trying to do things with little children on your platform. That's the theory. That's what moderators are supposed to be there for, right? But then there's an extra level of moderator called a power mod, which really sounds kinky to me. But I'm not one to kink shame, right? Whatever people want, consenting adults here, right? Oh, right. The power mod moderates other moderators. They get to decide who can be a moderator and who can no longer be a moderator. So the power mod has a lot of power. Ghislane Maxwell was a power mod for 14 years, moderating and posting daily on her subreddit. And what was that subreddit? Was it rapist billionaires, our Epstein class? No. It was world news. I'm putting a link to the subreddit where this is all explained. And yes, it is on Our Conspiracy. And yes, there are nut jobs on Our Conspiracy. But what have I said since the very beginning? Since the very beginning of this channel, what have I said? We dismiss conspiracy theories at our own peril. But let's take a quick break. Before we dive too deeply into this is the Gribbly's Folly Sunday Antisocial Hour, that time each week where I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while answering all of its questions. And if you are a piece of humanity with a question for me, leave it in the comments down below with the hashtag AskGribs. I will answer any question. Big questions, small questions, personal questions, obscure, itching, burning, swollen questions you just can't get an answer to anywhere else. I'm your man. And the first order of business today is to thank everyone for your well wishes after my last video. I got scarlet fever. So far, everyone I've told that I had scarlet fever is like, did you get it on the Oregon Trail? Basically, yes. When you have a school-aged child, you are pretty much on the Oregon Trail. You have died of dysentery. In case you are unaware, as I was, and I think as most of the Western world is, scarlet fever is just spicy strep throat. That's all it is. You get strep throat that is so bad that the rest of your body turns into a lobster, and now you're a lobster with strep throat. So the day of the second snowstorm, the one where I had to shoot the wedding, I started itching on my side. My rib cage started itching. And I looked, and there was a rash, and I was like, that's weird. I don't get rashes. I'm not one of those people that you change your soap and you get a rash or whatever. That's strange. No other symptoms. 2 weeks later, I started getting a sore throat. I did not put two and two together. It never crossed my mind. And so then I go to the doctor, and that day that I made the video, and they she saw me in my car. She came out to the car and looked in my throat. She was like, all right, let me see your, oh, you've got strep. And then as an afterthought, she's like, you don't have any rashes or anything, do you? And I was like, actually, yeah. Meanwhile, my kid got pneumonia, and the doctor's like, yeah, that's strep pneumonia. My doctor was like, once I told her what was going on, she was like, yeah, you all have a raging strep infection, and your kid has strep pneumonia, and you have scarlet fever. Thank God for antibiotics. I asked the doctor, I'm like, I know this is just in my throat. What happens if I do nothing? She's like, oh, you die. This will kill you. Maybe your immune system could turn it around, but at this point, the inside of my throat I've seen colonoscopy footage that looked better. So that's why when I see anti-vax influencers, and I live in Asheville, right? We're hippies here. And there's so many people here that are anti-vax and they like to drink raw milk. Have you ever been to a dairy? Do you see where the milk comes from? You got a cow, it's covered in shit. Its udders are covered in shit. You take the udder sucker that's covered in shit and you stick it on the shit covered udder. That's where your milk comes from. Pasteurize your milk. And that brings us to our topic today. Are these hippies just MAGA in disguise? Because they would never agree that they agree with MAGA, right? You could never point out to them like, hey, MAGA is anti-vax and you dirty hippies are anti-vax. And isn't that strange? What is the commonality between these two disparate they're morons? That's what it is. And morons, as we all know, are very susceptible to propaganda, right? That is the lesson that's why you watch a former journalist in his garage, is because we're not morons. We're not susceptible to propaganda. Right? I was going to make this video last night, and I thought, when I make it, every time I make a Saturday antisocial, bad things happen, right? Maybe I just won't. Maybe I'll just hold this one to Sunday, and that will stop the war. Didn't work. So then I woke up this morning and discovered we are now involved in a region-wide conflict with however many countries we're up to now. It's bad. It's bad. And you know what my first emotion was upon looking at all this morning? Really, I got to talk about this on the Antisocial. I started the year saying we were going to have fun. Each video, I'm like, gosh, we couldn't have fun last week. Can't have fun this week. When are we ever going to have fun? Now this? There's some poor Iranian mother holding her blown up baby in her arms right now, and me, a fat American, I'm just like, well, my YouTube channel isn't fun anymore. But I keep coming back to, this is the reactive state of Americans' lives in 2026. Is you try to have a life, you try to move forward, you have goals for your future, you want happiness for your children, but the thing that takes the most of your energy is responding to this precipitous fall into fascist imperialism. This is this constant, we can't have normal lives anymore. If you're paying attention, I'm sure there's people out there that are privileged enough not to be able to, or to be able to not follow it. But it invades everything. And this is, as I've said, if nothing else, if I can't do anything else, because it really feels like I can't, right? We all feel really helpless about this. If nothing else, I can be honest about what it feels like to be an American that isn't on board with this. And it's exhausting. The amount of, I don't even want to say faith or trust, because I never had faith or trust in our government, but the things that I took for granted, like the idea that we will have a future, that we will be alive, that we will have an economy, that our standard of living was always going to be high. That's no longer a given. So even if you want to take the selfish approach, which I feel like it is selfish to say, don't worry about the things you can't control, so we're going to kill a bunch of innocent Iranians and then a bunch of innocent there's a bunch of other brown people that are innocent over there and they're going to die, but you can't control it. So why worry about it? Fuck that. But even if I wanted to take that angle on it, my own self-interest here, the things that I can control, not my housing, not the inspections on the meat that I buy from the store, not whether I can get my kid, his 12-year vaccines, can't control those things. This is what it's like to be an average American, that opposes what's happening. This is what it's like. But at least we can take solace in the fact that we're not morons, right? Like you're watching this channel, presumably because you like to hear the insights of a former journo who's sitting in his garage, someone who doesn't get his news from partisan sources or even really like major corporate news sources. Like I I take a lot of pride in the fact that I get my news from more intelligent sources, crowdsourced sources, organic sources like Reddit, and specifically the subreddit World News. 14 years Ghislane Maxwell posted daily on Our World News. 14 years. She got in on the ground floor of Reddit. There's some thought that maybe she knew the Reddit founders. Of course, I can't confirm this. I don't want to spend more time looking into these people, but apparently Jeffrey Epstein was close with some 4chan folks. They were probably close with a lot of founders of online platforms, because that's what you would do if you were intelligence operatives in the mid-2000s. And that's the angle that the popular consciousness is missing out on the Epstein story. This wasn't a billionaire pedophile who just liked to rape kids with his billionaire buddies. This was an intelligence operation. It was just a coincidence that all these billionaire powerful men happened to be pedophiles and they just somehow found each other? No. Maybe Epstein was just a journo. Maybe he just really liked taking photos of his friends and himself raping children. This was an operation sponsored by a nation state of some sort to gain blackmail on the world's most powerful men. A couple of weeks ago, it came out that maybe Epstein was running a honey trap for the KGB, well, for the modern version of for Russian intelligence. Maybe. But let's just take it at face value. Surprise, surprise, Jeffrey Epstein might have been a foreign asset generating compromise on some of the West's most powerful men, in case any of them maybe one day decided to run for office. Isn't that weird? Isn't that a crazy idea? And then that his girlfriend, Ghislane Maxwell, she was willing to participate in these horrible crimes with him just because, I guess she just wanted to be supportive. She just wanted to be a good partner in the relationship. Maybe those are values that she learned from her parents, like her father, Robert Maxwell. Wonder if there's a Wikipedia on him. Robert Maxwell has been suspected of having ties to multiple intelligence agencies, including the British MI6, the Soviet KGB, and the Israeli Mossad. The British Foreign Office suspected Maxwell of being a secret agent of a foreign government, possibly a double agent, or a triple agent, and a thoroughly bad character almost certainly financed by Russia. Shortly before his death, by the way, he died by falling off his yacht. He fell off, I guess there weren't any windows on the, maybe it was a porthole. The yacht was named, by the way, Lady Ghislane. Had you heard about any of this before now? Is this the moment that you're hearing about because you watched the crazy lunatic with the fringe conspiracy theories on his YouTube channel in his garage? That's where you heard it, isn't it? I was reading about Bill Gates and how he's come out and made this groveling statement apologizing about his affairs with Russian women. But I clicked on this story and I was reading it and, blah, 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 blah. Bill Gates had an affair with a Russian bridge player. And, we know about this because Jeffrey Epstein threatened to expose him for it a few years ago. Why isn't that the headline? Since when is it news that powerful men have affairs? Why isn't the news, hey, this one powerful man, he's blackmailing all the other powerful men? Meanwhile, his girlfriend and co-rapist was apparently running the most successful sole proprietorship in propaganda ever in history? And we just don't hear about this. Why isn't Anderson Cooper singing this on a rooftop? So I wake up this morning to find that we have co-founded a new war alongside our allies and friends and buddies, Israel and Netanyahu, and we have started a conflict in the Middle East where there wasn't one. And I think about all the conspiracy theories that I heard as a young man, but like before the internet I'm old before the internet, as the internet was just becoming a thing. Right after 9/11, I was in college, and I would sit around in the caf with the small L libertarians, and they would start talking about the Bohemian Grove and the Bilderbergers and the Rothschilds and this satanic cabal of powerful men that would participate in these horrible, horrible rituals with the sacrifice of children. And it always came down to anti-Semitism. In the end, you're always like, oh, wow, this person's crazy. And then in a minute, you're like, oh, no, they just hate Jews. And these were always the same guys that were like the 9/11 truthers or the chemtrail guys, or they thought JFK was killed by Martians or whatever. They were always ridiculous. They were on their face absurd and therefore so easy to dismiss. And if you were in a position to conspire and you were worried people would figure it out, the best thing you could do is propagate a theory that was almost like the truth, but completely absurd. And then guys like me, like normal people, we're not going to get anywhere near that because, number one, the idea that the world is run by a cabal of evil people somehow ritualistically victimizing children, that's ridiculous. Number two, it's clearly closely connected with anti-Semitism, which is such an ugly ideology. I don't want anything to do with that or anything like it. Categorically, it's false. So that is what is on my mind on this inaugural morning of our country's latest war. I really want to talk about photography and fun stuff and all that on my YouTube channel, but it was more important that I came out and said, man, I am so glad that I never fell for any of those crazy conspiracy theories, that I held out some faith and hope that the world it couldn't be, the world is absurd and ridiculous. Okay, but it's not that evil, right? Like it's not, I never would have fallen for anything like that. This video is sponsored by me. I'm a guy and I make things that I used to care about. I make art and journalism and music. I do those things if you like any of that. And I've set a note that I need to brag about something every video. I need to tell people what I'm doing because a lot of times my Sunday Antisocial audience doesn't know what my art audience knows, and I want to bring everybody together. But it just never feels right. It never feels right to say, hey, we're bombing people today, and I want to tell you about this amazing film that I made about a ice witch. It also feels weird to answer your Ask Gribbs questions, because some of them are like about fascism and these false wars that we fight, and then some of them are like, would you rather fight one horse-sized chicken or 10 chicken-sized horses? And that, but if I don't answer them, then I get a backlog. Right? And when are we going to have a weekend where we're not fighting a new war? Apparently never. Rafa, ask Gribbs, I like the feel of a smooth briar pipe. What is up with rusticated pipes? I'm glad you asked. Today I'm smoking Beck's Old Limey Bastard in my Stanwell pot. It's a second, but it's still a Stanwell. And it's one of my very, very favorite pipes. I keep thinking I'm going to have an acrylic bit, custom made, because it's a vulcanite bit. Hang on, let me refocus on my ruggedly handsome face. It's so sad that my number one branding image is my face. I hate it. All right, so I love this pipe specifically because it is rusticated, and so am I. I know what you mean about a smooth pipe, and I enjoy the feel of a smooth pipe too. I think there's like pipe lore that says that a rusticated pipe technically has more surface area and therefore can radiate heat better and therefore is a cooler smoke. If you have to depend on that marginal difference to have a cool smoke, you're smoking your pipe wrong. Please go watch one of the bajillion playlists of pipe tutorials on YouTube. I like the way a rusticated pipe feels. And this question, I saw this question a bit ago, and I've been thinking about it. I don't feel like I'm leaving fingerprints on a rusticated pipe. Like if you were like holding a champagne goblet, I feel like I would need a constant like wiping down with a microfiber cloth. I don't drink champagne. A whiskey tumbler. You put it in the dishwasher afterwards. Well, you don't put your pipe in the dishwasher. And some of my nicest pipes are smooth pipes like the Savinelli that Les Brady gave me, and you guys don't see me smoke it a lot because I have to shine it. This, it's like I carved a piece off a tree stump and stuck some tobacco in it, and it fits my mood better and general dishevelment. But I'm with you, Rafa. When I first started smoking, I was like, why would anyone want one of those? And I don't know, things evolve, tastes change, and the reality of using an item is different from wanting the item. I really need to make the guitar video for you. I think about it all the time, and it's kind of the same. CB Potts says, I don't think photography is dead because it's less appreciated, but I think it's less appreciated because it's too easy to just keep the finger down and pick the best of the 2,000 digital photos. I still have my Olympus OM1. That's a very good camera. W. Eugene Smith was an incredible photographer and terrible businessman. Once again, rather like me. And he went to Olympus using the OM1 in the 80s for the endorsement because Olympus paid him to. But through learning about him, I never had an Olympus, but I learned about what incredible cameras those were. And it was a really forward-thinking company. You say, yeah, you still have it. Do you still shoot it? I haven't shot an honest frame of 35 millimeter film in 10 years. The only 35 millimeter film I have shot in been test shoots, and to see if, testing a film development or testing if the camera works before I sell it on eBay or something like that. But my follow-up question to you, CB Potts, is the value of a photograph determined by the difficulty in making it? Sometimes I think it is, but other times not. Anyway, Kitkin says, Dyatlov Pass mentioned they claim to have solved that one recently. I saw that. They claim to solve a lot of things. They solved Jack the Ripper, but it's always just some dude who, forms an LLC called, Really Good Solutions LLC, and then claims to have expertise. Would you expect to be found lightly radioactive if you died on your way to a wedding? Because I was talking about shooting a wedding in a snowstorm. Fun fact, a lot of the glass used in lenses in the war and post-war era, a lot of the glass was treated with thorium because it made the glass better. I don't know what it did. Thorium is radioactive. So there's a lot of highly sought after lenses that you really shouldn't, you'll probably be fine, but don't sleep with them under your pillow. So it is possible. I could be found radioactive, dead, and naked with a cracked skull from hypothermia. That's what happens is you get radioactive and crack your skull when you freeze to death, right? Daik Dan, D-A-I-Q, asks Gribbs, out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on Hunter S. Thompson? Really should have been safer with guns. Do you think there's anybody left today that can fill his journalistic shoes? I hope not. I wasn't much of a reader until I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and now I'm slowly working through his bibliography. I haven't read any Hunter S. Thompson. I saw the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when I was a junior in high school, and man, they should have scrapped the whole DARE program and just showed that movie. I would love to say I know more about him, but I think the only thing I have ever seen is that video of him shooting at his neighbor, for fun. And I don't want to say I'm not a fan because that's very entertaining, but that's not good. Side note, I am a longtime lurker, got into the pipe hobby in 2019, same year Jeffrey Epstein died. Very coincidental there, Dan. I believe I found you through a response video to YTPC Mayor Derek Tant. I miss the mayor and often think, what is the mayor doing right now? At Joe the Adapter Guy responded to me asking about his name. He says, yes, the Adapter Guy, but I have no adapters to show. It's a reference to a guy in the adapter community. I just make drawings and machine stuff for fun. The adapter community? I'm from the YouTube pipe community, right? I know that's weird. The adapter community? What are you adapting? Well, I guess evolutionarily, our big strength is that we adapt well. So maybe you just like evolving. Rafa asked Gribbs, something you said made me wonder, what are the main superstitions of photographers, a la not wishing actors good luck before they go on stage? Never use a battery more than once. If I put an Energizer battery into my strobe and take one shot. Actually, if I don't take it, if I put it into my strobe and close the battery door, I never go to another shoot with that battery in my strobe. I never want to have to tell the bride that I missed the shot because the strobe didn't recycle because I was trying to save 75 cents. I never shoot without a backup camera. Even if I'm only carrying one on my person, I have up to 4 camera bodies on me, depending on the shoot, and actually sometimes more. And I've needed them. This is the real difference between an amateur and a professional. Is do they shoot with backup bodies? Because that tells you if that person has ever seen the shit. And let me tell you, when your camera body suffers a catastrophic failure in the middle of the wedding, that's a bad moment, and you need to be able to handle it if you're a professional. A weird thing is that I tend to always carry a tripod, even though I never use it. But you never know. You never know when there's going to be like nice stars over a venue, and the mother of the bride is yelling at her sister, and you need to have an excuse to go outside and take a picture of the stars. Al Molitor asked Gribbs, why did they shoot Alex Preddy 9 times after he was pepper sprayed, disarmed, laying on the ground restrained, and already shot once? Because it was murder. Because it was murder. In all that is happening, lest we forget that the men who shot Renee Good and Alex Preddy have not been brought to justice. They haven't been arraigned. They haven't been indicted. There's no promise to the public that these men will ever see a day in court. Lee Majors, 1977, says, man colds just hit different. There is scientific basis for this. I can't quote it right now off the top of my head, but men have a stronger immune response to respiratory viruses. I looked this up. There is, whether it's true or not, there are studies that have indicated such. What's your favorite dessert as a kid and now, if it is different? I think key lime pie in both cases. Although as a kid, actually I didn't even like chocolate until I was like a teenager when I was a kid. So my tastes were definitely different, but I've never not liked key lime pie. When I was a kid, I couldn't handle the really tart key lime pies that are like mostly key limes and not a lot of sugar. So I like those a little more now than the sweet ones. But when I was a kid, it was I couldn't do it. But yeah, I'm a simple person. I don't need anything fancy. Key lime pie will do it. So we have reached the end of the final the first March Sunday Antisocial. The year is 2 months gone. A sixth of a year is gone. And yeah, we will continue to march on this channel because we're stubborn and obstinate, but also because the most important thing is community. And even if these conversations are not as fun as I want them to be, or as fun as the ones that we used to have with Mayor Tant, remember the leech off? He didn't show up. He didn't show up for the leech off. Anyway, those were the days, and I miss those days, and these are new days. And we can pretend otherwise, or we can face these days head on and rise to the occasion. So that's what we're going to try to do. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.